Good afternoon. So, Daniel 8, let's look at the critical part of chapter 8. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered, the little horn. Then I heard one saint speaking, another saint, and unto a certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 evenings and mornings, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So the main thing I want to point out here is notice how this is a King James version, Daniel 8. See how sacrifice is in italics? Daily sacrifice. Daily sacrifice. Okay, that word is tamid. So let me start here. (11 through 13). There's one more. There's a cultic term which we should analyze. The term seems to be a key one in the passage, namely tamid. This is unequivocally a cultic term. Usually tamid is understood to mean daily, but it lends itself more readily to continuance or unceasing. Most commentators have rendered tamid in Daniel 8, 11 through 13 as daily sacrifices. The basic reason for this translation is that tamid often is used in connection with the morning and evening sacrifices. It is quite common to find tamid in the Hebrew, of course. Tamid is the Hebrew word for the daily there. Qualifying the burnt offering The basic reason for this translation, tamid often is used in connection with the morning and evening sacrifices. It's quite common to find tamid qualifying the burnt offering. And so it'll say, olat tamid, a continual burnt offering. You can see this in Exodus 29:42. There shall be a continual burnt offering throughout your generations. Or Numbers 28:3. And thou shalt say unto them, this is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer to the Lord, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, day by day, for a continual burnt offering. Nehemiah 10:33. For the showbread, and for the continual meat offering, and for the continual burnt offering of the Sabbaths, of the new moons, for the set feasts, for the holy things, and for the sin offerings, to make an atonement for Israel, for all the work of the house of our God. That's when it's olat tamid, meaning olat is like the sacrifice, tamid is the daily sacrifice. Okay. However, in Daniel, what we're looking at here, Daniel 8, tamid does not function as an adjective or an adverb, like the daily sacrifice or the things in the temple. Not the most holy place, but the holy place, associated with the burnt offerings that were day after day. Also, though, with the table of showbread and other things like we just saw. To me, it does not function as an adjective or an adverb in Daniel, but it does everywhere else. So it's like olat tamid, okay? In Daniel, it has the definite article, the, before it, ha tamid. Ha tamid. Okay. Therefore, it functions as a noun in Daniel. This absolute usage of the term is unique to Daniel only. Since the term olah, burnt offering, is not used by Daniel together with tamid, it is improper to supply it in the translation. Besides, the term tamid is not used only with respect to sacrifices in the Old Testament. It is also used in relation to the bread of the presence. See Exodus 25:30 or Numbers 4:7. The lamps, Exodus 27:20 or Leviticus 24. The incense and the fire upon the altar. To limit the meaning of ha tamid to sacrifice again, it's not in the text, that's why it's in italics, they add it, which means they're putting in interpretation into the text by adding that. So that's literally making it, it's not being faithful to the text. To limit the meaning of ha tamid to the sacrifices is to overlook the variety of usages of tamid within the cultus. Ha tamid should be understood in the broadest possible sense. It's the tamid, and it's associated with all the things that are done in the outer court of the temple. It's not the most holy place. Interesting. Interesting that it happens to turn out that daily sacrifices aren't actually in the text, and has that very special, unique form in Daniel 8 amongst this symbolic prophecy with symbolic or with symbols representing something different than literal. No, but it's got to be literally talking about regular old daily sacrifices. We just needed the English KJV translators to go ahead and correct the original Hebrew for us to make it seem like it's more literal than it actually is. But even when they do that, it still isn't. A study of Tamid in cultic context would reveal that it was used in connection with many activities the priest was commanded to perform continually in the sanctuary. Furthermore, the Tamid was used with reference to the priestly activities performed in the court and in the holy place of the sanctuary. We should not overlook the significant fact that Tamid is never used with reference to an activity performed in the most holy place. It is most probable that when Tamid is used in the absolute form, as in Daniel, it refers to the cultic acts performed in the holy place or which had an indirect relation to the holy place. The theological concept underlying those activities was that of intercession. The expression ha tamid could be better translated continual intercession. It would then refer to the continual ministry of the priest in this sanctuary on behalf of the people. See? So that's just one small reason. So what was the temple system for? Why was it instituted for the people in the Old Covenant? Did it represent, I don't know, what Jesus would do? I'm amazed at how people don't see this. They want to say the Jews are going to have their temple come back and do sacrifices as if Jesus didn't fulfill that. And as if Jesus isn't the salvation for all the nations, to the Jew first and then to the Greek. As though the book of Hebrews doesn't even exist. As though Jesus hasn't been taken up into heaven and he's ruling from heaven in the heavenly sanctuary, ministering to his people, making intercession, preparing a place for them so when he comes back, as though he wasn't actively relating to his people, making them conformed into his image over history. Makes total sense. Well, we'll talk about it more later. The flow of Daniel 2, 7, 8, 9, and so on. Putting Jesus at the center. Why would apocalyptic genre prophecy that talks about the end of the world and is used by the book of Revelation go from talking about the empire to the end of the world in Daniel 2, the empire to the end of the world in Daniel 7, Jesus' sacrifice in Daniel 9, and then the flow of history after that to the end of the world and the resurrection from the dead? But Daniel 8 just gets tossed in there, and it's just a little thing about, Daniel 7 is about the new covenant and the end of the world. Daniel 2 reaches down to the end of the world. God's plan of salvation, which was typed in that system in the old covenant. In other words, it was a picture of what Christ does. No. Daniel 8 just decided to revert and then make that all about something that happened before Jesus was even born. And then the language of Daniel 8 has eerily he's called the little horn in Daniel 7 and Daniel 8. There's clear connections with the figure from Daniel 7, that's the little horn, in later chapters of Daniel that leads up to the resurrection from the dead and the end of the world. That same language is then associated with Daniel 8 from that same chapter. So Daniel 11 seems to be the same figure from Daniel 7, but the figure from Daniel 11 also seems to be the same figure from Daniel 8. And he comes in the same succession as in Daniel 8 as the one from Daniel 7. But no. It's Antiochus Epiphanes. And it's literal, but the language in the Hebrew isn't literal. I tell you what, man. And then, anyway, burnt offering is not in Daniel 8 originally. It's used as a noun with a definite article because those things were pictures of what Christ does. That's why it's using that language, just like it does in all sorts of prophecies. It doesn't talk about it in language of the new covenant future language that they don't have when they wrote it. Jesus is the Prince of the host. Jesus, they're learning about God, which Jesus is, and it's couched in that language because that stuff that represents Jesus, what Jesus has done and is doing, and which was always God's plan. There's so many reasons why it's true, and that Daniel 8 is talking about 2,300 years because Daniel 9, the 70 weeks of years are cut off from the 2,300. And the Daniel 9 in the beginning of the beginning of the 70-week prophecy is the Mare, and the Mare is of the evenings and mornings. And the evenings and mornings are the 2,300. So the 2,300 must be a longer period than the 70 weeks, which are 490 years. If you believe Jesus is the Messiah and that prophecy foretold is coming in 490 years, then the 2,300 are years. And it correlates with history. So as sure as Jesus came the first time, the 2,300 are years, and the Adventist interpretation is absolutely correct. And the text demands it.